The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Good afternoon and welcome to P.P. Simmons Radio. Your host, Carl Gallups. Well, it's June the 4th, 2013, and this afternoon my guest is Investigator Don Jeffrey. Investigator Don Jeffrey works with the cold case posse, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, out of Maricopa County, Arizona, and particularly he is working on the Obama fraud case. Now, many of you who listen to Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups know that I had Don Jeffrey on as a guest several days back, and we talked specifically about the mysterious Obama Social Security number and the controversy that surrounds that. And Don gave us a lot of enlightening information that day, but like anything else, Don, whenever you give a bunch of information on a criminal case, it always creates more questions, and so there has been a firestorm of questions that have exploded since then. But Don, I'm just honored, and we're glad that you have made yourself available to come back on and to be on P.P. Simmons Radio so we can clear up some of the questions that people have. First of all, let me just welcome you, Don. Welcome to P.P. Simmons Radio, and God bless you.
Thank you, Carl.
Absolutely. Well, listen, let's just get right down to it. We want to keep this interview as short as possible so people can listen to it and pass it around to folks. Let me get to several questions here. First of all, why did you say before, and please expand upon this, why is there no criminal act thus far with the Obama Social Security number? Explain that. You made that point last Friday, and a lot of people have kind of come unglued over that. Why is there no criminal act associated with Obama Social Security?
Well, what a lot of people don't understand is the simple fact that we are the Maricopa County cold case posse. Here, no crime has been committed with that number. Now, as far as my research goes, and I've looked into the computer runs, that's all the computer runs are investigative leads. They're not evidence. You can't use any of that in court. So as far as we know, nothing that he has done with his Social Security number has been illegal. Now, you know as well as I do that my Social Security number doesn't come back to another person either. But as I stated earlier, it could be a glitch. It may not be. But until Social Security Administration releases the information, which they're not going to, and you have to remember, we're not talking about some guy in a street that we're checking out. We're talking about the President of the United States.
Right. So isn't it correct then, Don, that what I've been saying all along and what Mike Zullo's been saying is that this is why we're pushing for a congressional investigation rather than filing, quote, criminal charges with the local district attorney's office, because Congress does have the authority to pull those records. Congress does have the authority to investigate the Social Security number to the hilt. You at least have enough mystery surrounding that number that you think that's why we're using this this fraudulent birth certificate issue, because there is criminal evidence there to get it before Congress so that all of this can be vetted. Isn't that correct? Isn't that what the thinking is?
Yes, and it's not only the Social Security. There's a lot of unanswered questions that the government is holding back from the people, and Congress can get that information. We can't.
Absolutely.
You know, as a law enforcement organization, we can't get this.
Right. So it would be counterproductive for you guys to, quote, file charges on the Social Security number issue, because it would just be thrown back in your face more than likely.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's because of jurisdictional and prosecutorial problems. But if we can get it before Congress, then we can open it wide up. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, so are there any authorities that can bring criminal complaints regarding Obama Social Security? Who can do that?
Well, yes and no. You see, as you know, all those computer runs with all those Social Security numbers and addresses. A computer run's not evidence,
right,
regardless of who is doing this. Each individual address would have to be searched by hand and certified true copy before it could be entered in evidence or, be court-worthy. This has never been done. Now, can the IRS investigate the president because he used a Social Security number on his return? Well, considering the president's in charge of the boss of the IRS, I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. It is a tangled web, and I know it's very complex, and I know it's very frustrating for you and Mike Zullo and the Cold Case Posse and Joe Arpaio to try to explain all of these elements of criminal procedure to the American public. But hey, at least people are interested, Don. I mean, we've got people's attention now, and this Sheriffs and Peace Officers Convention has blown this thing wide open. Let me ask you a couple of other things about the Social Security number. Apparently, one of the mysteries surrounding this number that allegedly Barack Obama is using is that it comes back registered to a Harrison J. Bonnell with computer runs. As you said, that's not courtroom evidence, but that's at least enough to strike some curiosity and some mystery. Now, I understand that there was a Freedom of Information Act request on Harrison J. Bonnell. What did you find out about that? How can you expand upon that for us?
Well, yeah, the request was done back in November of 2012, as far as I can remember. And what had happened was a FOIA request was sent out asking for information on the name of Harrison J. Bonnell. And they responded due to the Privacy Act of 1974, which is USC 55-2A. They denied him due to Privacy Acts, although Harrison J. Bonnell's been dead for some time now. So, there's a lot of suspicious stuff going on with this. And at this point, though, we can't say there is crime, but there's a lot of suspicious stuff going on and a lot of activity.
Right.
But it still leaves us in the dark. Now, you have people touting this as evidence, but it's not. It's a letter of denial. The request was asked for by name, and it was responded to using the name. So it doesn't prove anything other than they're not going to supply you with information.
Right, absolutely. And you're right. I mean, there's a lot of mystery, a lot of intrigue surrounding all of this, and there are a lot of possibilities, a lot of possible roads and angles this thing can take. But I think what you have explained, listen, I understand it perfectly. As you know, I have a criminal law enforcement background myself, so I understand it. But I'm trying to put myself in the place of the lay people out there who just do not understand it, who believe that, look, we know his number comes back to Harrison J. Bonnell. We know he's using the number. We know he paid his taxes with that number. Therefore, it's criminal activity, because if we did it, we would be in trouble. But the problem is, as far as taking evidence into court, we don't know that he's using that number. We don't know that Harrison J. Bonnell and Obama have the exact number. I mean, it looks like we do, and there's evidence to suggest that that's a fact, but you don't have the legal papers necessary to take this to a prosecution. Is that correct?
Correct. And if there was any federal investigative agencies, well, the president has a monopoly on law enforcement on a federal level because he's their boss.
Right.
So nothing's going to get done there either. So
yeah.
Anything that does occur is going to have to be a congressional investigation.
Right. I got you.
They can get all the answer. My job right now is to investigate and look into his background and attempt to try to clear him on these things. If I can't, then we have something. But the only thing we're going to have is questions, and hopefully it will be questions that Congress will ask.
Right. Which is why you guys have been pushing for a congressional investigation for these last almost 2 years. Well, listen, I've got one more question to ask you, and I think you've basically kind of already answered it with everything you've said, but let me ask you specifically. There's been a lot of talk about the so-called Greenwood property in Chicago that's tied to Obama. The mystery is, or the problem is, that Greenwood property in Chicago that's tied to Obama and his name is also allegedly tied to the name of Harrison J. Bonnell, the same dude that supposedly the Social Security number comes back to. Tell us if I'm correct on that, what's going on and why something hasn't been followed through on that, criminally speaking.
All right, first off, we're talking a computer run again, number one.
Right.
Number two, there could be a glitch in the system, and that's why Harrison J. Bonnell's name is coming back. We do know Obama does use that Social Security number that has been coming back to Harrison J. Bonnell as well. However, if someone wanted to do something, they have to go down to the Cook County Real Estate Office and Tax Office, get the information out of there, get certified true copies if they want to, and then go to county court and sign a complaint and see how far they get.
Right.
They're not going to get far at all with it.
Yeah.
Because once it goes over to the prosecutor may decide not to take it.
Right. Right. And if that happened, it could blow everything out of the water for you guys that you've been working so hard on. Well, Don, listen, we're going to have to wrap this interview up. I do want to thank you for being on the show and for helping to clear up some of these matters. You've been very patient with me and with us and with our audience and with people who are asking questions. And you just alluded to something there that I want to reiterate, and that is, for folks that are out there that are just insisting that the cold case posse and Arpaio and Don Jeffrey and Mike Zullo, that they immediately file criminal charges. And some of these people claim to have credentials and investigations of their own. They claim to have all kinds of evidence. Well, my challenge to those people, Jeff, Don Jeffrey, and you may agree or disagree with me, but my challenge to those people is, look, if you've got so much information, if you know that you have a criminal case, then you go file it. You file with your local DA. You file with your state attorney general. You file with your court system and see how far it goes. See, I think it's ludicrous that people are demanding that you guys file while at the same time claiming that they have the same information. And I'm saying to them, well, why don't they file? So I think you've done a good job of explaining it, but do you feel that same frustration too sometimes, Don?
Yes, you got to remember, being from Arizona out here, we're limited to Maricopa County.
Right.
We can't go beyond that.
Right. Yeah, no, that's right. And you had the jurisdiction to investigate, because there was concern that a fraud had been committed upon the voters of Maricopa County. And Sheriff Joe Arpaio responded to what's it called? 250 people petitioned him. Yeah, the petition.
Right.
They petitioned him to investigate. And they did, trying to clear the president. That's been stated over and over again. But in the midst of that investigation, they discovered all of these anomalies, and now a 100% rock-solid criminal case, criminal investigation of fraud and forgery, and that is what you guys are trying to get before a congressional hearing, because this matter goes to the White House. It goes way beyond Maricopa County. Now it goes to the federal government, to the White House, and perhaps Barack Obama himself, correct?
Correct. And what we're doing, we have the birth certificate, we have the selective service card. We've proven that they're frauds, and we're making a list of questions also for Congress.
Right.
This way, they have an avenue to go down to look into this as well.
Right. In fact, they have not only the avenues to go down, but they have the avenues to go down that really no law enforcement agency in the nation does. Plus, they have the constitutional mandate to go down these avenues in the light of such overwhelming criminal evidence. So Don, thank you for the work you're doing. We might have you back on again in the future to clear up even more questions, but it's been phenomenal today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. And thank you for agreeing to come back on PP Simmons Radio. I know you're a super busy man, but keep up the good work. We're praying for you, and God bless you. Don Jeffrey.
Thank you very much, Carl.
All right, fantastic. Folks, you've been listening to another edition of PP Simmons Radio, June the 4th, 2013. Don Jeffrey has been our guest today. Don Jeffrey, again, the cold case posse investigator for the Obama fraud case. He's been specializing particularly in the anomalies surrounding the Social Security number and Barack Obama. As soon as more information breaks, you'll hear it first right here on PP Simmons Radio. God bless you. Do you ever wish that you could more powerfully, succinctly, and accurately speak to the message of your Christian faith and the Word of God? This is the book you need, The Magic Man in the Sky, Effectively Defending the Christian Faith. This book has been featured on TBN, Atlanta Live, dozens of radio programs, and hundreds of markets. It was rave reviewed by the Washington Times, and it was called a must-read book. Considering the times in which we now live, you need this book. Get it today on Amazon.com or the WND Superstore.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.